Monday night, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And yes, I am the generational talent in Garden State media, folks, because I'm the hero you need right now. And as we all know, as the establishment media here in New Jersey continues to lie to you every single day, guess who won't? That's right, me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday to you all. Hopefully, thank you again for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on this, the 16th of June, as we continue on with my least favorite month of the year here in 2025. And again, folks, I want to thank you all again for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard. Of course, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, along with all of our social media platforms. And if you haven't done so already, what are you waiting for, folks? Again, don't forget to like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe to the Jersey First Television Network on YouTube. All of our great content is available to you there. You'll be notified by clicking that little bell right there. Yes, right on YouTube. And you'll, of course, be in the know about everything going on with Jersey First TV. And of course, whether you listen to Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First. And once again, you'll be notified of all the great content we bring you every single week here on all of our great programs. Folks, I can't say enough what a privilege it is to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, folks. It is the Jersey First Television Network. Brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, hosted by my amazing tag team partner, the incredible Elizabeth Nader. And brand new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe premiere live every Monday night. Of course, check your local listings for start times. And certainly appreciate you making this a part of your Monday night viewing. Folks, you want to buckle up tonight because I got a jam-packed final thoughts this evening. A lot to discuss after primary day last week. And of course, here in Hudson County, we have the usual type of malcontents that are not very happy about what happened last Tuesday during primary day, especially here in Northern Hudson County. You know, the usual suspects, the Lollipop Guild. We'll delve into them a little bit later and, with some specificity, but more so about one in particular. Yes, folks, and as we all know, Father's Day is come and gone, and I'm not sure if, maybe you want to send them a gift. And I do plan on organizing a GoFundMe online for one of the resident malcontents here in Hudson County, and that's John Bender. As you can see there, obviously sitting there last month in Newark during, I guess, some proceeding for Leonard Filipowski when he should be, somewhere at a North Oregon school. And coincidentally, Leonard Filipowski will be at Newark Municipal Court this Friday. You would think that the director of security for the North Oregon Board of Education would be on the premises, but I'm sure he'll be in Newark cheering on his favorite propagandist, Leonard Filipowski. But in the meantime, folks, again, it's the end of the school year, graduation week, and if you want to send a end of the year gift to one of the elder statesmen in the North Oregon School District, why don't you send a nice little order of polygrip to John Bender? Again, God knows he could use it at the ripe age of 85. And we'll delve a little bit into why John Bender continues to be so insufferable, folks, here in Hudson County. But again, go to CVS.com or Walgreens.com and order that, maybe order a couple boxes for John Bender as an end of the school year gift for all the hard work he's done as the director of the North Oregon Board of Education. Folks, we also want to talk about, obviously, over the weekend, we saw a lot of, malcontents. And of course, as you can see there, folks, a lot to say about primary day and driving on Kennedy Boulevard this past weekend. Going to help us see some signs for some loser candidates. I'll tell you why this was so joyful over the weekend. So you definitely want to stick around for that for final thoughts, folks. It's definitely not one to be missed. But as a matter of fact, also during the weekend, folks, we saw a lot of children rallying around, not just New Jersey, but around the country for what was known as, No King's Day? Yes, somehow screaming against the authoritarianism and totalitarianism of the current president. But you know what's really funny about everyone behind me in this specific collaboration of children, right? And one specific one, obviously, one of the biggest children, right? Max Pizarro where was his outrage when the 46th president was mandating vaccines? And if you didn't get one, well, you couldn't go back to work or you'd lose your job, or keeping lockdowns longer than they should have, or calling out the 46th president about, hey, firing servicemen and women for not, adhering to a vaccine mandate. I'm not vaccinated, right? Or calling out, draconian lockdowns during COVID. when schools were shut down longer than they had to be, and businesses were closed down longer than they had to be? Where was Max Pizarro's outrage about the 46th president? Yeah, it seems like, Max Pizarro, what else is new? Talks out of both sides of his ass, but we'll delve into that during final thoughts, because it seems like he's so outraged about the 47th president, but it seems like if anyone acted like a king, it was the 46th president. I get it. Max, he's old. That memory isn't what it used to be. But I'll refresh it later on during final thoughts. Folks, again, it is election season. We just went through primary day, but of course, we're all gearing up for the general election this November the 4th. Obviously, all 8 state assembly seats will be up for grabs. That's right, all 80 of them. And of course, Phil Murphy is term limited and will be electing a new governor here in the state of New Jersey. Now, last Tuesday, during a very, very, I would argue, very contentious primary for both the Republican and Democrat parties collectively, we saw some heated contests. And obviously, moving on towards November is Republican candidate Jack Chiarelli and the Democrat candidate Rebecca Michelle Sherrill, otherwise known as U.S. Representative Mikey Sherrill. But of course, folks, there are other options that you have on the ballot come up this November. And if you're really all about a constitutional republic and making sure that, hey, everyone's all concerned about democracy, well, cool, yeah. Let's be about democracy. Let's talk about as many candidates as possible that are gearing up for November the 4th. So here on the program, folks, I like to talk to everybody. And I get you the exclusives that nobody else gets you in Garden State, because I'm actually working all year, unlike others that take the summer off or take the whole year off for that matter. But I never do. And why not talk to another gubernatorial candidate during this election cycle? And he represents the Green Party here in New Jersey. And by the way, folks, if you're interested in donating any of your disposable income to the Green Party candidate, you can go to Zielinski for Green2025.com. Let me spell that out for you. Z as in zebra, IELINSKI, the number 4, Green2025.com. For my guest tonight, folks, he's the Green Party candidate running for governor here in New Jersey. My good friend, and apparently he's a fan of the show. Who'd have thought it? The great Steve Zielinski joins us live right now on Real Talk. Steve, how are you?
Good, Fernando. How you doing?
It's good to talk to you, man. And again, we talked off the air, and I know we talked last year when you were very gracious enough to ask me to host a Green Party candidate town hall for Green Party candidates. And again, bro, I like to talk to everybody. I'm a policy nerd. Obviously, I don't apologize for being a conservative, but I'm an academic also. And I like to talk policy. I like to talk about what should hopefully make New Jersey better. And I've been the only journalist talking about affordability, the budget in New Jersey, how it's out of control, and other things that we spend money on in New Jersey that, again, maybe you and I will have a disagreement on, but that's why we're talking. So let's get into the heart of the matter here. But before we get into your platform, what was your epiphany into ultimately identifying as a Green Party candidate, and what drew you to the Green Party?
Okay. So I actually ran for assembly 10 years ago, 2015, as assembly with the Green Party. I checked them out before. Originally, I thought about running independent. But again, when you're running as a independent candidate or separate from the Democrats or Republicans, people look at you as like a lame duck, unfortunately. So I wanted to actually hook up with a party to bring their policies, ideas, solutions forward as an assembly candidate. And they aligned with me, talking about peace, talking about environmentalism, equality, justice, things of this nature, and not taking any money from political interests or special interest groups or corporations. I believe that our country was formed on we the people, by the people, and again, a corporation is not a person. So, yes, it's very difficult, but we need to stand on our platform and our priorities and our beliefs. So.
All right, fair enough. And so, listen, I can share a little bit of what you mentioned. I ran for state assembly back in 2011 up here in Hudson County in the 33rd legislative district. As we all know, it's as blue as Windex up here. So when I was asked to run as a Republican, it almost seemed like a sacrificial lamb, but it was quite the experience, I got to say, to manage a campaign, knock on doors, try to raise money, use social media. And that was 2011. Obviously, a lot's changed in 14 years since then. But kudos to you, man, for trying that. And obviously, continuing on. Now let's move on into obviously your platform. And again, I made sure to make meticulous notes here today about the website and obviously what you're looking to do. Steve, I talk about this all the time on the show here. I mean, New Jersey is arguably one of the least affordable states in this country. And we lead the nation with the highest property taxes at over $10,000 easily. Where I live in Hudson County, I live a block from, a light rail that gets me to Hoboken in Jersey City within 10 minutes. I can walk 2 blocks. I'm looking at Manhattan. So I know where I'm living. Hey, that's what it is, location. But I drive on what's known as River Road a little bit north into southern Bergen County. I start hitting some of those little wealthy communities in southern Bergen County, Alpine, Dumont. Here I'm averaging a little, $10,000, but go up there, man. We're talking about 15, 16, over $20,000. Go a little bit south of me, or even a little west on 78, and we're talking about communities like Short Hills, Cranford, 25,000 and up. I mean, property taxes are out of control here in New Jersey. So when you were knocking on doors and talking to people, what seems to resonate with you for a message about trying to bring, if it's even possible, trying to bring down property taxes in New Jersey?
Okay. So obviously that's one of the main things that people are interested in. What are you going to do? And I'm not like some of the other candidates who say, I'm going to cut 15% down and have no clue. I'm a numbers guy. So I look at a problem, and there has to be many different components that actually fix that problem. And we'll get into it later more. But again, I'm looking at our costs. We need to consolidate. We have 563 municipalities in the state of New Jersey. We need to consolidate services, products, things of this nature to cut those out. We need to actually consolidate or work together with our education system in districts in this area. I know people don't want to do it. Everybody's comfortable with where they're at, but they complain about what are we going to do with our property taxes. There's got to be a little pain and hurt, but at the same time, if we're going to move forward, we actually need to look at the whole. Again, I'm going to talk about our healthcare in the state of New Jersey. It hurts us, and prices keep going up over and over and over. One of the things I'm working is I want to bring about a Medicare for all for the entire state of New Jersey, from cradle to grave, working on the basic health care of the Medicare platform, and that is the premium that we will pay. We're going to not wait for Congress or the federal government to put a Medicare for all bill together. We will work on what they have set up, and we've done the math. We could actually save between private, personal, individual, public, state, and municipal workers and everything we could save everybody a total combined of $2 billion a year. Okay. That obviously, if you're saving it with firefighters, educators, state and local workers, that's going to help bring down your taxes. We need to cut out some of the fluff, but we need to actually look at it with the scalpel and precision, and just instead of saying, okay, we need to get rid of this, or we need to cut it from the bone. That's not the way that things are meant to be. It's a huge budget, $56 billion.
Steve, you hear me? Steve, I lost you, Steve. Steve, are you with me? Steve, okay. Yeah, I lost you, yeah. My apologies, folks. We'll get Steve back on again. We kind of lost him. We can't really hear Steve. We'll have him log in. Yeah. Let's have Steve close out maybe, and we'll try to get him to get back on here sometimes, folks. It's a little difficult. Sometimes when technology doesn't always cooperate. We appreciate, try to get him on here. Let's try to get Steve back on. Yeah, try to close and yep. All right. Hopefully we'll get him back on in a moment, folks. We apologize. Technical difficulties, they happen, folks. That's the part of technology. Wi-Fi isn't always sometimes cooperative, so we appreciate you hanging in there with us. Again, folks, we are live right now. It's 6:20 on the East Coast. Don't go anywhere. We do have Green Party candidate Steve Zielinski, our guest tonight, which we'll resume in just a moment. So again, appreciate you staying with us. Folks, again, don't forget, final thoughts. You want to stick in for that? Go warm up some popcorn if you can in the meantime. You're definitely going to want some popcorn ready during this evening when talking about, post-primary day results. And, of course, some of the malcontents still living among us after primary day. So you definitely want to stick around. Hopefully we'll get Mr. Zielinski back on the air here, folks. It happens. Again, my apologies. That's just technology, folks. It's not anyone's fault. So hopefully we can try to get back. Oh, yeah, let's see if we can get him back on here. Just bear with us here for a moment, folks. Steve, you with us?
I can hear you now.
Okay, great. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. My apologies. Sorry about that. I don't know. Just Wi-Fi sometimes. Wi-Fi is just sometimes very treacherous, to say the least. So just to sort of continue on, you were talking about property taxes. And listen, man, I'm with you, man. We have over 500 municipalities in the state. Certainly, there's an argument to be made about maybe consolidating some municipalities, for God's sakes, or even school districts. We'll get to that in a minute. But one of the biggest arguments about property taxes, that's how we fund our public schools, not just only what we get from Trenton with state dollars, but obviously that's come under a lot of scrutiny during this budget season. Obviously, a lot of school districts have seen some cuts. Obviously, Governor Murphy and the state Senate and state assembly have been crunching numbers. And for everyone at home that isn't familiar with the process, again, under state law, it's mandated in the New Jersey Constitution. A state budget has to be signed and ratified by 11:59 p.m. on June the 30th. If it is not, then what we will see happen is the state will shut down. And in the last 20 years, we have experienced that. We experienced that in 2006 under Governor John Corzine, and in 2017 under Governor Chris Christie. Now, they weren't particularly long shutdowns, but enough that reminds us, like, well, wait a minute, why is the legislature waiting until the last minute when it comes to finalizing the budget? And just to give some people some perspective here, on January 1st, 2018, when Chris Christie left office, and I'm no fan of Chris Christie by any means, we had a $29 billion budget. We're looking at 58, if not more, by the end of this fiscal year. It almost doubled. I mean, I got to tell you, Steve, this budget's looking fatter than some of these Victoria's Secret models modeling lingerie lately, brother. What's going on?
So, one of the things you brought up, when Christie was governor, the budget was much lower. But again, he wasn't funding the pension fund. So those are skewed numbers. You want to talk about transparency? Yes, you're right. We should have the budget done by June 30th. That budget under me needs to be done by June 1st. Then there's a 14-day window that the public actually gets to look at this and stuff like that. And we're not going to fourth down and only 3 people and they're all throwing pork into the thing. Okay, this needs to be transparent. These are the issues that the public, the residents of the state of New Jersey, they're getting disgusted. It's a back issue thing, and everybody's throwing things, and it comes down to 3 people who are actually getting everything done with the budget. So those are skews. It's got to be fully transparent, underneath my administration.
Folks, if you just joined us live right now, it is 6:23 on the East Coast. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode, as my guest tonight is Green Party candidate Steve Zielinski. Join us live here on Real Talk. Folks, drop a comment or a question in the comment section. If you're tuning in on any of our social media platforms, we appreciate you doing that here during the program. Steve, obviously another big platform I know that gets discussed. We saw it a lot during the primary season for both Republicans and Democrats. And I'm sure that not just you as a Green Party candidate, but I'm sure the Libertarian candidate and other candidates running for governor are going to address as well, is affordability. New Jersey, obviously, we're seeing what's happening in California and New York. The census data is going to tell us that probably by the next census, blue states like California and New York are going to lose electoral votes because of people moving out of those states. Obviously, the states that are more affordable, coincidentally, better run states like Texas and Florida. But we're seeing a lot of New Jerseyans leaving into the Carolinas, even to Georgia, Delaware, even out west, maybe not so much Pennsylvania, but I mean, it just seems like affordability is an issue that is plaguing New Jerseyans. And whether you are a lifelong resident like myself and you, I mean, it's hard to even imagine staying here for the rest of your life when, again, property taxes are suffocating us. I just mentioned this for months now. This past January 1st, the last phase of the gas tax took effect. Obviously, going back to Chris Christie, it came in intervals. And listen, I'm a conservative. I'm all about the cost of crude oil going down. I'm all about drilling domestically. It's been working. But even with the gas tax, which again is about 49% right here in New Jersey, it's one of the highest in the country. We could be paying almost $2 a gallon in the middle of the summer, which is unheard of. But that's not the case. Whether it's the gas tax, tolls went up on the Turnpike and Parkway, respectively, this year. Also in January 1st, it just seems like Trenton has never met a tax or an increase that they've never fallen in love with, Steve.
So yeah, first of all, before I forget, going back to the budget, I want to really incorporate at least a 3 to 5 long-term plan. If we're doing things year to year, we're not looking at the overall. The state's going to be around, so we need to actually look at the short term as well as a 3 to 5 year program. It's the same way that you do when you run a business. Okay, so that's done with that. Yeah, affordability is a real problem here. And one of the things we're comfortable driving. Okay, we need encouragement and really work on a real structure of a public transportation program, fully funding New Jersey Transit and making sure they're actually working on this. One of the things I want to do, there's $10.7 billion that is going into the Turnpike expansion up around Jersey City. Problem is this, you got all that going into 2 holes going into Manhattan. You're still going to have a bottleneck. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that needs to be repaired. But I've actually done research. We need to actually create light rails throughout the state and then create a hub and spoke type system with bus transportation. There's nothing on the shore. You leave Bayhead Junction and there's nothing going all the way down to Atlantic City.
Yeah.
That would actually cost somewhere between $5 to $7 billion. Hitting 14 different municipalities, and then we could actually shoot off buses through there. That's where you want to talk about, yes, climate change and getting rid of carbon and stuff like that. But at the same time, if it's cheaper, we also need to get, I've, checked out some of these light rails. People aren't using them. So why? We got to make it maybe more affordable, maybe more something, because they're traveling. Doesn't matter if they're traveling.
Well, but Steve, I'll say this. I mean, where I live in Hudson County, and of course, leave it to NJ Transit and to be behind on this. I mean, we're approaching 25 years of the Hudson Bergen light rail, and the only stops we have are in Hudson County. I mean, eventually, we should have seen stops in southern Bergen County, going all the way up to Inglewood Hospital, which was the original destination at the end for the Hudson Bergen light rail. Now, I can just say by me, the light rail is used every single day. I mean, there are lots of people that depend on it. I think people are driving less up by me. But I agree with you. I mean, I can live without a car up by me, but I choose not to. But when I just go south of me, I go down the shore, I go out west. You're right. I think if there was a prolific light rail system throughout the state, that would benefit residents greatly. If you don't live in Hudson County or southern Bergen County, you're screwed. If you live in Morris, Passaic, there's no light rail. Like, you're going to have to rely on buses and New Jersey Transit trains, and we all know what a disaster they can be.
Yep. Yeah. So, there's many different things that need to be fixed with this, but those are the major things. We should be crossing the state down, across 195 with some sort of public transportation, as well as crossing from Bayhead Junction down to Camden, crisscrossing, and then again, getting buses, out there. And then from those hubs, those are where we actually start building affordable housing and manufacturing into the state. Okay. No one should actually have to travel an hour to get to a job. Unless they really like that job and like their home or whatever. But, to really bring affordability, let's think about creating small villages, small neighborhoods with small businesses and manufacturing in the state. And I'm not talking about just any manufacturing. Again, everything works off of one another. Again, my mention was that my background is in solar and renewable energy. We have millions upon millions of square feet of warehouses that should be covered with solar panels. And I've actually looked into Texas as a company that does bladeless wind turbines. So put them along the profession side of that, create small microgrids and battery backup in those areas. And then now we also create manufacturing. Georgia has a company which is out of Korea called Q Cells. They produce 8.9 gigawatts of solar panels per year. They're now a United States-based company. We should be doing that here in the state of New Jersey, as well as creating carports manufacturing. We could, again, underneath my administration, I've worked out the numbers: 50,000 new jobs, new good-paying jobs, union jobs for these people. That's the thing. That means actually you're paying less income tax with more people involved. You have more revenue from the state with more different businesses. That's going to bring down your taxes. You spread the number out. It's easy math. The problem is no one's actually looking at this. I'm the guy. I'm a numbers guy. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, listen, we'll get into numbers in a minute because, again, affordability, to your point, I think is an issue that continues to be really on the minds of a lot of New Jersey, and also affordable housing. And that's a really polarizing word because I think a lot of residents in New Jersey, we heard that during the primary season, during these debates with the two major parties about affordable housing and where it should go and maybe where it should not go. And some residents, obviously, I think, especially on social media, have expressed some concerns about maybe where affordable housing should be and should be not. But we'll get back to that in a moment. But obviously, I got to meet you last year. And folks, again, full little context here. I was able to host a great Green Party candidate forum last year at the College of New Jersey. Great campus and a great event. And obviously, got to meet Steve in person and got to know a lot of Green Party candidates running for House seats last year during the 2024 election cycle. But what's interesting, though, is that obviously, sometimes I want to see ELEC moves the goalposts, but yes, we've seen that oftentimes we need more signatures now to get on a ballot. Steve Zielinski, my guest tonight, folks, again, has accomplished that. Again, folks, if you're not familiar, again, with his campaign, do visit it by going to Zielinski4green2025.com. That's Zielinski, the number 4, green2025.com. If you're looking to donate and get involved with the Green Party and their candidate running for governor tonight, Steve Zielinski, joins us here, of course, live. Now, you got the signatures, but one of the biggest challenges also I think any candidate faces during a cycle, Steve, is fundraising. And as we all know, that ELEC, the Election Law Enforcement Commission, has a specific number that you have to meet to be able to get on the debate stage. Notwithstanding what some of the bigger players when it comes to the hosts for these debates, obviously we all know the New Jersey Globe is all but certain to host a debate during this fall between the candidates. Maybe at most it might be just 2 debates. We'll see who the other one is hosted by, whether it's Pix 11, News 9, ABC 7, or even NJ Spotlight News. We saw that in 2021. Who knows? But the bottom line is I think that they're very fickle and specific about, hey, sure, you got the signatures. That's great. But you got to meet this fundraising total to be able to get on the debate stage. And we talked off the air. That's an amount of $580,000 at the minimum to get on the debate stage. That's a big number for third-party candidates. A, do you feel confident you can raise that? And B, what are your thoughts about this sort of mandate?
Well, that's the problem. It's like every single 4 years, they keep moving the goal higher. 4 years ago it was, I think, 490. Now it's like another 90,000 every 4 years. What they're doing is they're taking away our democracy. Long story short, they're keeping the 2-party system because those are the ones that could actually raise the funds. They have the war chests. They've been around. But at the same time, like for us, again, yes, we don't take corporate money, corporate donations. We don't take money from special interest groups. I believe, and we believe, that the democracy is for the people, by the people. Those are the people who should actually be throwing 5, 10, $15 to our campaign. Yeah, it makes it that much harder, but it makes it that much more real of liberty and that pursuit. You know, like when Citizens United happened back in 2006.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, corporations have the ability to, and then super PACs came about and stuff like that, more and more, and dark money and all of this. Here's the deal. Okay. So, Sean Spiller did not make the $580,000 into his campaign, but his PAC raised over $25 million.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's wrong. I'm sorry. But I got to play by the rules for the time being. This is where we're at right now.
Steve, based on that information, do you think, and again, it's sort of like you have to play within the rules, as you said, but at this point, to be able to compete, and I know I kind of know what the answer is going to be on this, but do you think maybe you have to kind of bite the bullet, or other Green Party candidates have to fight the bullet with maybe taking some corporate money? I mean, if you want to be in the race, and maybe, I get it's not ideal. I get it. I'm just sort of hypothesizing with you. Would it maybe just, I wouldn't say happy compromise, but at some point, would you just have to kind of bite the bullet and say, you know what, if I have to do it, I'll do it, because I want to be able to raise that money and still keep your platform? Or do you feel that as a Green Party candidate, you're kind of betraying what the foundation of the party is itself?
Yeah. First of all, before people would reach out to me and say, why don't you run Democrat? We love your platform and stuff like that, and you move it that much farther. But again, principle is we're trying to get away from the duopoly, because when you talk to people, they're tired of both sides of the same coin kind of type deal. And this is where we really need to actually stand our ground. Yes, it's a very difficult issue. But if we don't do it, if we actually say, okay, this year we're going to take a little bit of money, where does that end? And people need to really stand for principle. And we lost that in the state of New Jersey, in the country. We're all giving in. That's wrong, and these are reasons why we created this country over 250 years ago, So those are the things. Yeah, it sounds a little libertarian, but I think we're a blend of both.
Sure. Again, and the reason I ask is because I like to give everybody a shot, right? And again, one of the things that makes me very different from other journalists, and I'll sort of die on this hill, is I'm going to talk to everybody. I'll talk to every candidate possible. I will have a conversation about positive, and I know. Listen, I know firsthand that there are a lot of things you and I don't agree on, and that's fine. We can be adults. We can agree to disagree. But that's the important thing about having discussions, and I think that's a disservice, not just the national media, but I think here in New Jersey, the establishment media in New Jersey does to candidates that are running, not just for yourself. Let's say running third party in the gubernatorial election. But obviously, all 80 state assembly seats are up for grabs this year. Yes, we just had a primary, Republicans and Democrats. Obviously, some hotly contested primaries, as we all saw, up and down the state. But it also kind of really discourages other third-party candidates from running for the assembly, where, again, I say this all the time. And, as a conservative and, talking to people over this weekend, going to these ridiculous marches and just some awful signs I saw by grown adults. The bottom line is, I say this all the time, Steve, is, New Jersey has the highest property tax in the country. That's not President Trump's fault, okay? The gas tax went up again, so we're paying almost 50 cents a gallon more for a gallon of regular gasoline. That's not President Trump's fault. The budget continues to get exponentially as large as Chris Christie. That's not President Trump's fault. That's one party's fault that's had a monopoly on the legislature for over 21 years. And I hate to tell you people, it's not, ideologues like Fernando Uribe that are in Trenton making decisions like this. So, I say to people all the time, it's like, well, okay, you want to scapegoat the president of the United States? Fine. There are some things I can disagree with him on, sure. But at the end of the day, here in New Jersey, though, Steve, when you're knocking on doors and talking to people, is it possible to try to talk to the, vote blue no matter who crowd, red until I'm dead. Is it possible to maybe even reach out to independents and say, hey, listen, this is a different message? Do you feel confident you can do that, sir?
Yeah, and that's part of it. It's like I'm not, part of it is, when I'm out there talking to people and getting signatures in parking lots of ShopRite or whatever, people are like, no, I vote red, I vote blue. You don't even know what the issues are that I'm bringing to the table. I understand that's the mentality. We've been bred with that generational wise. But we really need to actually, this is the reason why I'm pushing the issues, the solutions that we have in the state that I'm trying to bring about. And it's not red or blue. I don't mind working with either one if we're going to actually get things changed in the state of New Jersey. And yeah, there's a lot of fact that goes on there. But again, we need to look at each one and stop doing things behind closed doors at the 11th hour. That's one of the things, like I said before, about the budget. Those are the things that people, when I talk about, we're called the Garden State. I haven't touched upon our thing. So let me start going through the whole thing. The reason why, because you didn't even get to ask me, why did I run? Okay. Or why am I running? What's my passion?
Oh.
It's my wife. Okay. My wife, Kathy, was a special needs teacher for over 18 years in Union, New Jersey. She taught kids from age 6 to age 20, about 100, 120 students a year, what they called workshop or life skills. Some of the things that she taught these students, we don't teach in our public school system. And they're dealing with mental disabilities, physical disabilities, emotional, social disabilities. And so, like, she had these kids start their own business, punch a time clock, balance a checkbook, fill out an application for employment, go on a job interview, take public transportation. Her and I, we actually built raised beds, garden beds out there. She got the kids out there growing vegetables. She actually asked and got the school system to take one of the classrooms and make it into an apartment where they got to actually take the vegetables in, cook them, clean the dishes, everything like that. Plus, every single year she had these students put on a play, whether it be Beauty and the Beast, Alice in Wonderland, The Wizard of Oz. These kids, one of their things is they're hard to actually get social. To get them up on stage in front of 150 people was huge. Again, we don't do some of these things in our own public school system. She thought outside the box, okay, and I commend her immensely for that. Unfortunately, she's not with us anymore. 7.5 years ago, she passed away from cancer. Never drank, never smoked. I believe it's part of our environment. The food that we eat, the water we drink, the air that we breathe, and the stress that we're dealing with, okay? We are called the Garden State, and we spray more pesticides, herbicides on our lawns, our crops, and stuff like that. We can't fix our healthcare system if we are killing ourselves from the front end. So all these different things are actually at the end. It actually helps reduce our costs, reduce our healthcare, helps property taxes. All that is going to end up. So it's not just one big cut. All the little things are going to help us grow the state of New Jersey.
Steve, again, my condolences to you, brother. I can imagine, obviously, it's painful to sort of rehash that, but the cause is noble, because what you're trying to bring awareness to, and listen, I can get with that. Certainly, I think the way we look at processed foods, I think the way we look at our diet, the way we look at nutrition in this country, never mind New Jersey, but nationally, I think it's a discussion certainly worth having. So I commend you for that. Having said that, again, as you're knocking on doors, as you're going to, let's say, town halls or festivals, it's the summer, right? It doesn't feel like it. It feels like we're living in Seattle, to be honest with you, right now, obviously, with this weather. Doesn't feel like June. It was just Father's Day yesterday, and it was like 60 degrees. I'm like, okay, cool. I get it. I guess this is what living in Seattle must feel like. It's wild.
Oh, wait. It goes up to 96 degrees. So, yeah.
It'd be weird. So tomorrow, I'll have to wear shorts tomorrow. Go figure. Instead of a hoodie on Father's Day. But listen, I think the point is a good one about looking at how we're, as a state, feeding ourselves. Certainly, listen, even the Department of Health, and I think in New Jersey, needs a complete revamping. What we're doing in our public schools when it comes to nutrition for our kids, right? I mean, obviously, doesn't school lunches always get talked about every election cycle, but somehow it never gets covered or never really gets examined?
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like every student, public school student, should get free breakfast and free lunch. Sorry, that's actually going to help more than testing. And that's money that actually helps a person out. The other thing is, again, getting involved in the school system. Why can't every school system have a community garden out there, as well as the community having a community garden? So, like, after you get out of school, okay, and you have, what do you want to do? Why not pitch in with the community and grow a garden and really teach these kids a small business, outside the school system, not books and numbers and stuff like that, but really seeing that evolve. That's where, kids get engaged. We're not engaging our students enough. Many years ago, when you and I grew up, and it was a village grows a student. And yes, our lifestyles has changed. Now we have two people in the family working. Sometimes it's only one person working double jobs to make ends meet, and they're not able to actually. They want to take care of their child, but at the same time, they got a financial thing to deal with. We need to actually encourage the community to help out, and be part of this. Yeah.
Without doubt, folks, issues that mattered during this election cycle. We're talking about them here tonight with our guest, the Green Party candidate, Steve Zielinski, here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Folks, again, like, comment, and share. Drop a comment or a question in the comment box. We appreciate it. We're seeing some nice numbers for tonight's metrics here, so we appreciate that. Steve, let me ask you this. Let's go back to transportation. Certainly a big issue for me. It was talked about a lot during this election cycle, and I'm sure will continue to be talked about during this election cycle. New Jersey is a very, very weird state when it comes to geography. And as I mentioned, here in Hudson County, we're the most densely populated county, not just in New Jersey, but I would argue in the country. So, our mass transit system, when it comes to light rails and buses, I mean, again, I can walk 2 blocks. I see the skyline. I can jump on a bus and get into Manhattan, well, reasonably within maybe 15, 20 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer. But that's not the case. And obviously, you mentioned about the Turnpike extension up nearby south of me in nearby Jersey City. Certainly, we talk about another issue that was discussed at length during these debate cycles, and that was congestion pricing. Obviously, we're seeing what's going on in New York. Governor Hochul, who has her own set of problems in itself, why New York is such a mess. But it seems like, going after New Jersey, inflicting this congestion pricing on us. A lot of people are curious about those that are running for governor this year. What is he or she going to do to fight back against the Empire State when the Garden State seems to be marginalized when it comes to congestion pricing? I know there isn't a magic wand to fix it, right away, but what's a solution that you can be comfortable with, Steve?
Well, I don't think doing tit for tat gets us anywhere. Charging them, it's just battling back and forth. We really need to, I think that bringing more mass transit into New York back and forth is a better thing to do. And spending investment dollars in that venue and not on the turnpike. Because again, that's part of the problem. I think that it should have been worked out. It didn't. But that's a small section of the state of New Jersey. So again, I'm looking at the state overall as a whole and where we should actually put investment dollars and get people comfortable more with doing mass transit or public transportation. Doesn't have to be the whole ride, but again, and where's that money coming from for New Jersey Transit? So again, I think the budget is what, 3-something billion a year, and we only collect 1 billion from the riders to take care of public transportation. So that means that the state is actually subsidizing it, 2/3 of the amount. Yes, it's public transportation. It's not a for-profit, but that number needs to get going a little bit better and higher. So part of it is people are people don't want to take public transportation because, again, you mentioned the summer of hell, that things are breaking down, and people are stuck and they're hot and bothered, and we need to fix that transit system up and through that area. But if we know that that train is going there back and forth, and whether they got 500 people on it or 50 people on it, your costs are still basis on the same. So we need to actually look at those metrics and bring more people on, or just, hey, we did it September 1st, if I'm not mistaken, last year, for a week. You got to ride the rails free, which was great. People got to be introduced with it. Let's do some more promotions and things of that nature to get more people on. But yeah, we need to extend the Hudson Light Rail. We need to really look at the whole picture instead of not, you put in a little bit and then you didn't finish it up.
I mean, listen, for example, down in Essex County, I mean, I see it all the time. I mean, when I drive by the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, when I drive by my alma mater, the grad school at Rutgers, I mean, I see a light rail there in a very sort of limited part of Essex County. It's very wide. Certainly people are depending on buses that maybe aren't always running on time, on trains, to your point, that aren't running on time. And listen, one of the reasons I just don't take the train down the shore when I want to go visit a shore town or a beach, I just don't trust it. And I think that I share the sentiment of so many New Jerseyans that are nervous. I mean, obviously, to your point, we saw what happened last summer. We saw New Jersey residents being stuck at the Port Authority, underground with the heat. Obviously, maybe not this year with the heat, but the bottom line is, I mean, it just seems like New Jersey, if there's an agency, Steve, that deserves to be audited down to the last nickel, I would say it's definitely New Jersey Transit.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And again, I don't have their budget in front of me or whatever. Sure. They moved their headquarters, if I'm not mistaken, last year or whatever, and spent money there. Why not take care of? You want a good relationship with the people, you got to back them up, take care of them like anything else. It's a relationship, whether you're dating them or you're taking care of them. You want to make sure that you give them 110%, and then they will actually believe you. But you can't just wave numbers and expect them to jump on board.
Oh, sure. That's fair enough. Let's move on to another topic that I know is a little near and dear to me, Steve, and I know that we might agree or disagree on this one, but obviously it was discussed a lot during the primary season for the two major parties. Obviously, there's a very big divide, and I'll sort of use what happened last November as maybe as a barometer. But, Steve, I'm a guy that, is very much about the culture war. Whether that's right or wrong, we can discuss that. But the bottom line is that I think that the reason that people that identify as either left or classical liberals or progressives, I think took the Democrat Party too far left. And I think what we saw is Hispanics, blacks, college-educated women, single dads, single moms, Middle Eastern people, even young men and women under 25 seem to, gravitate towards a message that, listen, can we stop with the woke bullshit? Can we stop about gender? Can we stop about pronouns? And I think that, when we talk about culture wars in New Jersey, I mean, obviously these last 8 years, we've seen a governor and an attorney general that have not been shy about suing school districts that don't want to subjugate our kids to curriculum that maybe isn't appropriate. And we've seen both Republicans and Democrats in the state, kind of dig in their heels a little bit about what's going on in our school districts. Curriculums like, 5756 and others. Listen, again, Steve, I don't want to sound like the token conservative. I got plenty of gay friends. I got plenty of lesbian friends. I get all that stuff. But I think when parents are objecting, because again, property taxes pay school boards. They pay the school districts. When parents want to go to school board meetings and object to stuff that our kids are being subjected to, Steve, I'm sorry. I'm the only journalist that stands up for parental rights. Again, it doesn't make me a transphobe or a homophobe or a bigot. I just don't want to subjugate kids to certain material that they have no business seeing as young as 5 years old. And I think that that's an issue culture war-wise that's gaining strength in New Jersey. As the Green Party candidate, where do you stand in that argument?
So I think I agree with you in certain sections. It has to be age appropriate, and we have to bring parents involved. Okay, um, they need to actually take a role in explaining. Hey, when I was maybe 10, 11, 12, my parents were the ones that were teaching me about the birds and the bees. Um, not until later was the physical aspect and how science works and everything of this nature coming into play. But the same thing here, yes. Um, our generation and the diversity that we have, not just throughout the state and the country, but throughout the world, has changed over the past 50 years. Um, we don't have that um, stigma as much, but we still do have. That's where we have racial divides, Islamophobia, the whole 9 yards. We need to actually bring about that education, but again, it has to be on an age appropriate level, and bring the parents involved. It's part of education is part of the parents. You're part of their life. It's not just you dropping them off to a teacher who is overwhelmed with 35 other students and expecting something to pop out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. All right. So again, getting more involved is something of that nature. And the other thing is this: we didn't talk about education yet, but I want to actually bring down costs, redirect costs of our education system throughout the state. Give the teachers the money they deserve and stop testing the hell out of our students.
Yeah, that's right.
So again, those are the people, 35 to 1 compared to a 20 to 1 is much more significant to actually engage that student. So
Sure.
I jumped all over the place with
No,
that.
no, sure. Steve, another issue I know that's going to come up during this election cycle, and obviously it's a national one, but it got discussed during the primary season here in New Jersey. Governor Phil Murphy, upon taking office in January of 2018, decided via executive order to declare New Jersey a sanctuary state. Now, I'm old enough to remember when I took constitutional law in grad school. And I remember that part of the federal government's job is to preserve sovereignty and to enforce borders. And listen, I hate getting into the semantics sometimes with guests. I'll sort of just use the terminology I want to use. You can use whatever you want to use. But Steve, again, this is a bad optic here in New Jersey when we're seeing, federal agents at ICE facilities getting, we're having New Jersey residents think it's okay to block the entrance to an ICE facility, to throw themselves in front of a vehicle transporting people here illegally. Here's some numbers for everybody, because to your point, I'm a numbers guy too. I'm a policy nerd as well. Okay. I mean, $3 billion is allocated out of the state budget to accommodate illegals here in New Jersey in a variety of different ways. Okay. $7 billion comes from the federal government for Medicaid. Now, let me be very clear what language I'm going to use. Illegals do not receive Medicaid in New Jersey directly from the federal government. That's correct. But what New Jersey does is reallocate the $7 billion into a fund which makes healthcare available for illegals in New Jersey. So I'm looking at $10 billion, whether it's through state money or federal dollars, Steve, that are going to accommodate illegals. I'm sorry. I think people that identify as far left or progressives didn't get the memo from November. There's an optic out there about sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, Steve. And again, I don't know if that's going to be a big issue this November, going into November in New Jersey, but I can tell you the New Jersey residents, again, are part of that 77 million voter base that said, we're tired of an open border. We're tired of accommodating illegals. Doesn't make you it doesn't make you an Islamophobe or a xenophobe or bigot. We just want immigration law enforced, Steve. Why is that so polarizing right now?
Okay, so I knew that this was a question that you and I were going to discuss.
Sure.
Like you, we're a facts and figures guy. So, first of all, let's look at it this way. Yes, in the nation and the state of New Jersey, we have undocumented immigrants. And I agree that if they are committing crimes, besides jaywalking, obviously, but if they're committing crimes, stealing, murder, whatever, like anybody else, they should be held to the law. Okay. But let's say you got a cut on your arm from your bicep down to your wrist. Do you actually amputate the arm, or do you actually sew it up and fix it? So we are at this situation in this period of our lives. Yes, we need to actually secure the borders at this point in time, and let's move that forward later. But at the same time, instead of deporting people, okay, because what's happening is they're rounding up anybody, whether they have a business, a small business down in Haddon Heights or Haddonfield, that they've been in this country for over a decade and still cannot get citizenship, but they're contributing to. They actually run a restaurant down there, so they're contributing to the community. They're paying taxes. They're hiring people in the state and everything, and they give away food to people who are homeless. So those are all great things, and they got thrown. They got thrown into ICE. They got thrown into detention. Okay, instead of doing those things, which let's run down numbers. ICE were spending over $10 billion a year alone, not including deportation. So if you included everything, and this is on 1 million immigrants that we're looking to deport, we're close to $88 billion. All right. The loss of revenue, because people that are undocumented immigrants, they don't live off of rainbows and clean air. They're eating, they're buying stuff and everything like that. Again, this is 1 million people. You're talking federal and state taxes, $7 billion. Social Security and Medicaid, or Medicare, which they're contributing to but do not get to use, that's $2.6 billion. And the GDP loss alone is somewhere between 110 to 170 billion dollars a year. Those are big amount of numbers. Yes, if you are an emergency, like dying, hospital got hit and stuff like that, yes, the federal government and the state actually take care of those undocumented immigrants to take care. That's humanitarian, okay? But that number for New Jersey is only $3.8 billion. I think you mentioned that. We also do take care of giving a little bit of SNAP, WIC, which is women, infants, and children, but that's limited. That's another $50 to $100 million. If we actually focus more on legalization of immigrants, undocumented immigrants, instead of dragging this along, all right, we could actually spend less money and actually put it back into our economy. That's what I've actually looked at. Okay, not to mention the emotional aspect, as well as the division, which has been created not just in the state of New Jersey, but also throughout the entire United States. We're supposed to be unified. We are a land of immigrants. Mm-hmm. Whether you came here illegally, most of us, people before did it through Ellis Island and things of this nature and all. But instead of just taking a hatchet to it and getting rid of those people, let's move them through the system, because they are actually giving more money into our revenue stream than they're taking.
All right, listen, all fair points. And I can agree with you in the sense of, if we're targeting law-abiding citizens, I get the optic. It doesn't look good. But Steve, one thing, and I was just on a panel on somebody else's show last week, and I talked about this. It's media coverage or the way that this issue is being, examined and featured, whether it's the establishment media nationally or in New Jersey. Again, Steve, I'm a numbers guy, but I say this all the time, going back to President Clinton and George W. Bush and Barack Obama. I mean, they deported an enormous
Yeah.
amount of people, and notwithstanding the financial crisis, right? Like the banking and everything that we saw in 2008, but from 2009 to 2016, Barack Obama deported a hell of a lot of people, and the economy didn't break down, and people were still, again, it's just, I'm always baffled about the argument that maybe it's, the humanity. I hate to break it to people, record numbers of men and women and children were being deported for the last quarter century by other presidents. And again, the service industry didn't collapse, and other industries didn't collapse. So it's like, I'm trying to figure out, and maybe there isn't just one answer to this, but it just seems like, wait a minute, is it just a scare tactic because, I'm not saying you, I mean, this or generically, you don't like the 47th president, but you like the 45th president? I'm sorry, 44th president, or the 43rd president, or the 40. It boggles my mind where, again, it's a polarizing issue. There's no magic wand. I'm with you. There are people here living 10, 20, 30 years, whether they have documentation or not. But it just seems like lately now, Americans are seeing the cost, the burden that's being incurred, right? Our school districts, our classrooms are going from 25 to 30 kids to even 35, 40, 50 kids. We live in New Jersey. I know hundreds of school teachers and school districts where, illegals are coming here, having children, using up the resources. And again, I'm not trying to scapegoat anybody, but the bottom line is, it's like, I don't think there's an easy answer. But again, the 45th and 47th president is deporting as many people as his predecessors, but there isn't the outrage about it, Steve. So what am I missing?
Because I think part of it is it's brought to the media, brought more. It was done on the back end with Clinton and Obama and stuff like that. Yes, numbers are right, okay, but when you put that scare tactic in, hey, if I was a farmer in Jersey or whatever, we again, part of it is we depend on migrant workers to pick our vegetables, and they're not showing up. So what do? Like, the vegetables are dying. It's a time frame, all right, which is costing you more money, which means that you got to actually charge a higher price. You can't get mechanization of picking radishes or whatever and stuff like that and get it to the same point. Or that's where we're at right now. So like, if you're talking about bringing down costs of produce and at the same time not doing it, the reason why is we're buying everything overseas, which means that to have it shipped here 1,500 miles away, you're friggin' picking the stuff green. And what good is that in nutrition value? So there, again, it's not one thing. There's so many different little things that we actually need to address. And it takes time to get people up and feeling that we're moving in the right direction. But I think part of it, the reason why it's so in front of our face, is because of that fear tactic that's being brought about. I don't think that there was as much publicizing of ICE going around. Doesn't mean that it was right or wrong during Obama's time. But what I'm saying is, when it's in your face, that's a scare tactic. That keeps people away.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. Folks, it's 7 o'clock here on the East Coast here. My guest tonight is the Green Party candidate for governor here in New Jersey, Steve Zielinski, joining us live right now on Real Talk. Folks, again, check out our website, Zielinski4Green2025.com. That's Zielinski, the number 4, green2025.com. If you wish to donate any disposable income or donate your time to the campaign, you can do so by going to Zielinski4Green2025.com. Looking at, again, the website, Steve, another issue that caught my attention in my notes here, reforming the corporate business tax. That language always gets talked about because you want to keep businesses in New Jersey. Obviously, we're seeing, business-friendlier states down south in Florida, Texas, for example, down in Kentucky, Tennessee. But many people don't look at New Jersey as a corporate-friendly state when it comes to the business tax. Share with our audience tonight what you would like to have done, again, as governor here in New Jersey when it comes to the business tax.
Well, I think, again, as I mentioned before, if we have more revenue coming into the state, if we're bringing in more businesses in many different areas, whether it be along the coastline, the seafood industry, the um, the renewable energy sector, agriculture, um, building carports that support these electric generating structures and things like that, then you're bringing in more revenue, which means that everybody could come down a little bit and be at the same level, if that makes any sense. So, really, doubling, we should be bringing in a lot more um, of what's going to help out the state. Again, when I mentioned if we're putting solar, we're building our solar panels here, we're building the carports here, we're putting all of these assemblers as well as installers throughout the state to work. Um, and that means that by doing that, as well as building batteries in the state and microgrids, by doing that, that's actually going to bring down everybody's cost throughout the state. Well, you're saving it on the property tax end, you're saving it on the income tax, the state income tax end, and you're saving it directly into your pocket because instead of paying $200 a month for your electric, now it's only costing you $150, and that $50 could go to something else. One of the things that we actually haven't talked about yet is creating a state bank for the state of New Jersey, because I know your listeners are saying, "Wow, these are great ideas. Where's the money coming from?" All right, we would be the second state in the nation to create a state bank. The only one that's actually been in existence since 1919 is the Public State Bank of North Dakota, and they have been profitable. Now, obviously, their budget is a lot smaller than ours, but they were even profitable during the 2008 bank crisis when we're bailing out banks. They're taking their profits and putting it back into the infrastructure of the state instead of paying corporations and private banks and stuff like that. We're borrowing money for the state. Why aren't we actually creating a public bank and actually taking some of that interest and actually putting it back into the state and regrowing it, that we could actually fund these different things? And by doing that, you're going to use what they call self generating loans, something that that you're actually paying for already. So, again, if you're creating, whether it be community solar or individual solar or business solar, and we actually fund that, that money is going to go back to the state and actually grow it. It's kind of what FDR did back in 33 when he was trying to regenerate out of the depression.
All right, fair enough. Another issue that caught my eye, obviously, on your website, Steve, was prioritizing affordable health care and not corporate tax breaks. In a state like New Jersey, very, very, very simply, is that realistic? And how could you go about that?
Well, again, if we're actually redirecting to a what they call Medicare for all, so what we would do is use the same platform as the basic traditional healthcare underneath Medicare, but open it up from again from cradle to the grave. By doing that, and we've actually done working with third party companies to get these numbers down and figure it out. What we would do is the state would not administrate it. It would be administered again through Medicare, but we've actually know that it needs X amount of dollars from 18 to 29, 29 to 35, 35, and that number has come up. Those instead of having a choice whether it be private insurance or the Medicare, um, everybody in the state would buy it from Medicare, and you're getting those specific. If it's not covered by Medicare, then the private insurance companies could go above and beyond it. But we've done the numbers, and again, we would average save people throughout the entire state, as well as the state as a whole, about $2 billion a year. So again, that money, whether you pay your insurance individually, that goes right back into your pocket. If the state pays it, well, that brings down the cost of the state budget. So a little bit here, a little bit there, but doesn't matter if it's a state budget or if it's going directly back into your pocket. It's a savings. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And again, understood, and we appreciate the specificity there. Folks, if you just joined us live right now, it's 7:10 here on the East Coast. We're about to wrap up shortly with tonight's guest. He is the Green Party candidate for governor here in 2025 in the state of New Jersey. Steve Zielinski joins us live here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Steve, very simply, is there a way to we talked about New Jersey Transit. Here's another agency that pisses me off incredibly. Is there a way to fix the MVC?
I'm sorry?
Is there a way to fix the Motor Vehicle Commission?
You know what kills me is the mentality. Okay, and I'm sorry, but part of it is, why does things take so long to get things through? People are in those positions, and I'm this is my personal opinion, is they're comfortable and they feel like we get this amount done during that period of time. We have to actually look at things as if you were running the business yourself. And, by doing that, maybe you might actually get a little bit more money in your pocket. Sure. Because if we're actually taking care of more people, or a day off or whatever, but, we got to get out of that mentality in the state or public sector that, hey, I'm not working for myself. I'm putting in time. That's wrong. I don't know if that addressed your issue, but
no, listen, I think you're kind of saying it in a nice way. Like there's a lot of state employees not doing anything, and it's killing us. And some downsizing, or again, I would not be opposed to auditing New Jersey Transit, the MVC, the Turnpike and Parkway Authority. I can bet you. Listen, I know that the word Doge gets very polarizing right now on a national level, but if there's a state in this country that needs a Doge, it's probably New Jersey. We could shave out more fat than, some of these kids at bakeries nowadays in Trenton, because I got to tell you, Steve, I mean, you look at some of these agencies, some of these boards, even the Port Authority board, my God, obviously that's connected between New York and New Jersey. There is so much bureaucracy there. And I think what turns people off during this election cycle, and again, in New Jersey, there's always an election. It's not like, oh, there's an off year. No, there's literally an election every year in New Jersey for something. We saw last year, obviously, for House seats, a Senate seat, the presidency. Here in New Jersey, obviously, all 80 state assembly seats are up for grabs. The governor's office is up for grabs. We also have a lot of highly contested municipal races as well. So there's never a time to rest in New Jersey. I mean, it's great for me, for political junkies like myself and journalists that are covering this. But I think that the reason a lot of people get turned off about state politics is they just see the amount of bureaucracy coming out of Trenton. Again, if you took a scalpel to the Motor Vehicle Commission, New Jersey Transit, the Parkway Authority, and the Turnpike Authority, you could see so many useless people and show them the door. I don't think I have enough fingers and toes, bro.
Yeah, and again, the thing is this. If you present it as, hey, listen, we gotta reduce your position or whatever, but we got another position here in the private sector that we could actually put you into, because if we're growing 50, 60,000 new jobs in manufacturing and stuff like that and all, and in a public bank, we're going to need administration and everything like that and all. So it's not like we're cutting you out. We're just redirecting you. And that's what any business does. It's they're opening up a new section of their business. Hey, I know what you could do here. I don't need you anymore because we're going to consolidate and stuff like that. But we're going to move you into this new area and see how it works. Maybe you don't like it. But, we got to be ever changing. We got to flow like water.
Sure. No, listen, well said there. Steve, before I let you go, bro, I want to thank you for your time tonight. We've been on for over an hour. I feel like I could talk to you for 3 hours and I get through everything, right? But again, in full disclosure here, when I met you last year, I just came across such a genuine, transparent man, like a very decent man who cares about New Jersey like I do. We may have different ways to sort of go about it, but I can tell, again, in your transparency that you genuinely care about New Jersey and its future. And that's why you're running. You're a Green Party candidate. I know that every election cycle we hear certain names. Obviously, I know that Jill Stein has been a Green Party candidate for president for, I think, a couple of cycles now. And obviously, she's a name that gets Green Party candidates and, the voter base very energized. What are you hearing about your candidacy from not just sort of the upper echelon of the Green Party on a national level?
On the national level?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, from the Green Party in general, yeah.
Level. So I don't know if this. One of the things that we didn't get to talk about is I would like to see, and we're starting to see movement in the state of New Jersey, as ranked choice voting. Now, I'll give you an example of what happened with the primary. And we had 6 Democratic candidates running. Okay, none of them got the majority of the vote. Mikey got, I think, 33%, maybe 38. I can't remember. And then Barack came next, and things like that. So with ranked choice voting, and our election system with our electronic ballot machines are already set up to do this. But you get to pick like a first, second, and third. And if the first person, like Mikey, doesn't get 100, it doesn't get 50%, over 50%, which is the majority, then they knock off the lowest, and then they take a look at what your second vote choice was, and they tally those up until someone gets the majority vote. To me, that's real democracy.
So essentially, like what's going on across the river in New York during the mayor's race, I mean, obviously we're seeing ranked choice voting, right? That's becoming a very big issue. Is that what you would be advocating for, or you'd like to see it?
Yeah, and we're starting to see it. They're looking to bring it into municipal and education throughout the state. And then again, the next step would be for the state level legislation, and then bring it into the governorship. The problem is the people who are the incumbents don't want to be challenged that way. To me, that's real democracy. So we got to keep. These are the issues that, you're not going to get a Democrat or Republican, very few, who are actually going to push for that challenge. It means, again, why in the state of New Jersey are we only getting less than 32% of registered voters going out at any one election year? Because they don't feel their vote matters.
Well, Steve, what's interesting is, again, just looking at numbers here, Mikey Sherrod, I believe, received 34%. Ross Barker received 20%. And to your point, yeah, I mean, listen, I think that we only just eliminated the county line last year. Think about like over 100 years here in New Jersey, where we were literally the last state in the country that engaged in this system. And obviously, sure, it created for a more competitive primary season for some Republicans and some Democrats, right, in certain districts. When it came to the assembly races, obviously up by me, there was some all three, even though all 3 districts are as blue as Windex, they were very, very competitive primary races because there was no county line. The county chairs have a preference of who they like, but there wasn't the county line that was just literally monopolizing ballots. Obviously, the same thing with the Republicans. Obviously, it only took up until last year almost a full century to get rid of the county line. Do you see a momentum to what you mentioned about ranked choice voting?
Yeah, I think people want to see more real democracy. But again, to do that, we need to actually get the Assembly and the Senate to actually write bills and get it passed by the governor to do that. And if we look at what's going on, I don't see that this is where we need to actually put independents or progressives or whatever, one here, one there, and slowly build up. You're not going to flip the entire state in only one shot. That takes a lot. But once we actually get that up and moving, and people see that independent or that person who stands for the issues is really standing for the issues, that's where we're going to see, things happen. I'd love to see it happen, like that, but we know, let's be realistic. So.
Understood. Quick lightning round. We've gotten to know Steve Zielinski, the candidate running for the Green Party here in New Jersey. Let's get to know Steve Zielinski, the guy, the regular guy. Not sure if you're a sports fan. I think I might have asked you this before when we talked in person. Not sure if you're a sports fan, but I'll sort of quick lightning round. Oh, you're not a sports fan.
No, but again, you know what? It's funny. When I was coming here, I knew you were going to ask this. So this is a great story. So I don't know if you remember. I think it was the '86 World Series.
Yeah.
Mets and Boston Red Sox.
Yep. Correct. Yeah.
So at the time, I don't know, I'm 22 years old, I think. And I was actually working on a film production. That's what I went to school for.
Sure.
It was a Japanese mayonnaise commercial that was shot here on the East Coast. And we had a crew from New Jersey, a crew from Hawaii, and a crew from Japan. And we traveled, obviously, New Jersey's like the diner capital of the world. And we were hitting different diners from here all the way up to Boston during the World Series event.
Wow.
So that's where we were actually in Boston, I think, Game 6, shooting and stuff like that. That's my extent of.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, we can still do a lightning round. I'm prepared for everything. So, obviously, what college you go to?
I went to Brooklyn College.
Okay. Favorite course you ever took at Brooklyn College?
I'm sorry, what? The major?
No, favorite course you ever took at Brooklyn College?
It was, I think it was probably editing or shooting film.
Okay. After a long week of campaigning, Steve, red wine or white wine?
Oh, I'm red wine.
Okay. What type?
My go-to is a red Zinfandel.
Okay.
Or Shiraz.
Okay. I'm a Malbec guy, so good stuff there. Bourbon or Scotch?
No, bourbon.
Okay, bourbon. Good man. Favorite movie growing up?
My favorite movie, again, going to college and stuff like that, was called The Stuntman with Peter O'Toole. It's about a director. It's a comedy and romance and the whole nine yards. It brings in like 5 different genres.
Okay.
Love it or hate it.
Okay. Favorite genre of music and artist?
That changes. I'm all over the place. I grew up with Kenny Loggins, Springsteen, obviously. But then I'll listen to one of my newest guys, Ron Pope, who actually is a little bit eclectic and things like that. Or what's the newest one? Something of Legion. I can't remember the name. It's a 2-guy band, very bluesy and yeah. So.
Okay. After a long week, your go-to cuisine?
It depends on how the week went. I try something change. I like making Cajun food.
Okay. Excellent. Interesting. Very nice. I've never heard that. Good stuff. Last one. Favorite American president and why?
I mentioned before FDR. Thought outside the box. He actually had to bring a country that was stressing out, dealing with depression, getting people back to work, created so many different federal programs, which again helped the entire country. And that's the way, and then turned around and actually had to deal with World War II. So
absolutely. Besides Fernando Uribe, favorite conservative?
I don't know. You're a very level-headed conservative, which I appreciate.
Nice.
You have your, certain things and stuff like that, but I like that you balance everything out. I have had some that I've been interviewed and they challenged me on it, and it's like, but I enjoy it all.
All right. Well, listen, Steve, I appreciate the kind words. And again, folks, if you're looking to donate or get involved with Steve Zielinski's campaign, again, go to Zielinski4Green2025.com. That's Zielinski, the number 4, green, all spelled out, 2025.com. Again, if you're looking to donate, there's a button right there in the middle. You can't miss it. It's green. Click on the donate button. You can also click on the store there and get involved with Steve Zielinski, the Green Party candidate for governor in 2025. here in New Jersey. Steve, again, I want to thank you for your time because I like to talk to everybody. And while the establishment media in New Jersey shuns really on people that just they don't want to be bothered with, that's not me. I like to talk to everybody. I know what it's like to not get attention. I get it now. I always promise myself that I'm never going to turn my back on people when it comes to content and conversations. I know the establishment media does that. I never will, which is why I'll talk to you and all the other candidates during this election cycle. I want to thank you for your time. You're always a gentleman. I'll give you the last word here on Real Talk.
So thank you. And yeah, we only touched upon some of the issues that I'm addressing. So I ask that everybody who's actually seen this or going to see the replay of it, go to the website. Take a look at, there's a page called articles. I think I have maybe 20 articles written on specifics that'll really get you to understand the many different facets that I'm trying to actually address in the state of New Jersey. That's who you're going to know. So thank you.
Well, Steve, listen, again, best of luck to you campaigning during I would say the summer months, but it doesn't feel like summer yet. We'll see. But in any event, we'll get you back on during the fall season, see how the campaign's going, and we'll talk to you. And listen, if you know other Green Party candidates running for state assembly seats, throw them my way. I'm always happy to talk to everybody. That's what makes me different from the establishment in New Jersey. So, folks, again, he's Steve Zielinski, Green Party candidate for governor, running here in 2025 in the state of New Jersey. Steve, God bless you, bro. Again, take care of yourself, and we'll talk to you soon again here on Jersey First TV. Take care, Steve.
Thanks. Have a great night.
Folks, good stuff there with Steve Zielinski. Again, the Green Party candidate running for governor in 2025 here in New Jersey. And again, folks, when you're having good conversations and really delving into policies, the hour goes quick. And as a matter of fact, hour and a half almost here on the program. So I appreciate Steve, after a long day of campaigning and obviously doing what he needs to do during this campaign season, taking the time to talk to me tonight. I appreciate that, as I do any candidate that comes on this program, folks, because again, having run for state assembly many, many moons ago, I know what it's like to not get press coverage, to not be able to get any sort of traction. And you know what? When you're able to talk to the press, it just feels that much more fulfilling. So when I see someone like Steve Zielinski running for governor, good for him. You know, again, I'm always about getting the ballot out there, getting as many candidates as possible, whether it's Green Party candidates, the Libertarian candidate, hey, the Constitution Party, okay, here in New Jersey, okay? Even socialists. I know I'm not the biggest fan of socialists, all right, but listen, have the ballot as wide open as possible, make it available for everybody. If you get the signatures necessary, according to ELEC, hey, you should be on the ballot. So kudos to Steve Zielinski, again, making the ballot, getting the signatures necessary to get on the ballot. And certainly, again, listen, we all know the next challenge is going to be fundraising. We'll see. We wish him the best of luck, obviously. And if you can get on the debate stage later on this fall, that's a good thing, folks. Isn't that good for democracy? Isn't that good for representation, for letting people get on a debate stage and talk about issues? I mean, we see that all the time, right? We haven't seen it on a national level in a while. But we do see that, obviously, you know, across the river from me here in New York City, folks. I mean, we're seeing people running for mayor, and we're seeing a lot of different candidates running for both Republicans, as Democrats, as other third-party candidates. Again, there isn't a downside to representation. There isn't a downside to letting candidates get on a debate stage and talk about issues. It's as simple as that. So good for Steve. You know, get on there and see what happens, you know, as they say. And if you're looking once again to get involved with his campaign, again, as I mentioned again, Zielinski4green2025.com. That's ZIELINSKI, the number 4, green2025.com. As you can see there's a donate button there. You can click on, obviously, me and Steven, the issues, getting involved, as he just alluded to, articles of reference, that and much more. Obviously, contact, socials, as well as the press inquiries. It's all there, folks. Again, Zielinski4green2025.com. So best of luck to Steve Zielinski running this year in the 2025 gubernatorial race. Folks, it's 7:30 exactly here on the East Coast. Yeah, we're running a little bit long, but who cares? I know you're all tuning in, looking at the Twitter traffic, looking nice with the numbers, seeing the numbers on Facebook. That's always good to see. And again, folks, we appreciate it here because, you know, unlike a lot of my, arch rivals in Garden State media. Folks, it's always real traffic because it's real discussions, because it's real talk. And that's what we bring you here on Jersey First TV. Folks, I know it's what you've been waiting for, obviously, notwithstanding the great interviews that I bring every single week with candidates, elected officials, journalists, activists, you name it. Okay? But it's also what you've been waiting for, and I hope you got your popcorn ready, folks. It's time for final thoughts. Yes, folks, obviously, primary season has come and gone here in New Jersey. I know a lot of people were waiting for June 10th to come and go. And probably no more than the voters here in Hudson County who saw a very hotly contested primary season here. But folks, more importantly, good to see the perennial nail in the coffin for a lot of the malcontents in Hudson County. A good laugh I got last Tuesday night. Now, I'm not going to sort of delve into it because I've gone after the Lollipop Guild right behind me for months now. I don't want to recycle material because that's not who I am. I'm pretty creative and I can come up with new stuff. But as we all know, obviously, whether it's Leonard Filipowski and his incessant videos, and folks, that's, again, as I said to you last week, when you're getting $10,000 from Tony Hector and the Frank Alonso campaign, you would think that Leonard Filipowski could just go on either the New Jersey Press Association website or the New Jersey Society for Professional Journalists. Again, the two governing bodies that oversee press credentials. You would think getting $10,000 would motivate Leonard to go on their website and just for the small fee of $55, apply for press credentials and actually get them if you're a real journalist, which we all know Leonard Filipowski is not. But he loves to show up everywhere with a copy of the Constitution and say, listen, this is all I need. No, Leonard, that's not all you need. Okay? Just like you can't show up to a federal building without ID, just like you can't fly in an airplane or enter, a bank or do whatever it is. You need some sort of identification. You need to sort of prove to people that you are who you are. And in this case, since you're always talking about how much of a journalist you are, we would think that you would want to do that. So just kind of give you some tips here, brother. Okay? But of course, folks, as we all learned last Tuesday night during the primary, and for guys that are trying to establish themselves as campaign operatives, well, we all learned how quickly Joe Blatler crashed and burned at that. For the last 12 years, well, 13 years, this guy's been bitching and moaning about, A, not getting promoted, clearly, as we all know him. But of course, bitching and moaning about the city being a city and ultimately how well it's run by our mayor and state senator, Brian Stack. So, of course, Joe Blatler decided to enter a new arena and be a campaign operative, where I think it's fair to say, folks, on election night, you can't spell Blatler without an L. And that's exactly what he got, quite decisively, last Tuesday night. Of course, the other malcontents in Hudson County. We all know, the usual illiterates, all 5'2" of Ernie Rivera Batiz, and of course, other illiterates like Jose Garrido, who will tell you that he speaks truth to power, but can't even speak coherently. There's something called grammar. There are free apps called Grammarly. I get it as people send me screenshots. I mean, I guess you're one of those broke asses that has a flip phone, right? An Android, whatever. It wouldn't kill you to maybe edit and spell check. Because if you want to be taken seriously about, speaking truth to power, then speak like a coherent adult. Not some riffraff that's just mumbling gibberish. But folks, I want to specifically focus on one guy during this election cycle that was very polarizing and I think very antagonistic to others. And I get it. You want to go down with the ship and you want to be all about the Sacco machine and the Sacco empire. Folks, we got to learn that the Sacco empire is crumbling. Okay? And we saw that last week. Driving on Kennedy Boulevard, as the Pinnacle was heading out for their usual Saturday night shenanigans, I couldn't help but see a big banner on Kennedy Boulevard. Right near, I think, the downtown North Bergen Library Annex. And of course, I had to just go outside and take some pictures of these candidates who came up very small last Tuesday. Okay? Whether it's Steve Fulop, whether it's Tony Hector, whether it's Frank Alonso, and of course, Frank Scolari. Folks, one thing is taking an L on election day. They happen. We'll lose by a couple points. Hey, it happens to all of us. But what happened last Tuesday wasn't a couple of points. It was a decisive beatdown. And a message that was sent loud and clear about how Northern Hudson County is over the Sacco Empire. And how the Sacco Empire is crumbling before your very eyes. Okay? And how the Sacco Empire is withering away, folks. One thing is losing by a couple points. The other thing is losing decisively. And folks, I mean, Jesus, look at this. Is there a least masculine person pulling up fists like Frank Alonso? And you know that this photo was taken probably at 9 a.m. because that's the only time of day he's awake. You know, it couldn't be done past noon. He's already asleep. Or Tony Hector, when he's, instead of overseeing all the buildings that he's let go to shit in Hudson County, seems to be more fixated on running for office or posing for photos. What a laughable photo this was. But folks, what's even more laughable are the people that will defend the Sacco regime and empire to the very end. Yes, you recognize him, John Bender, yes. And you know what? I want to be a good guy today. And again, to everyone that celebrated Father's Day yesterday, God bless all the dads out there. My dad, my uncle, all the dads out there. All the dads that I know. But it is the end of the school year coming up this week in school districts all across New Jersey. And you know what? If you're thinking of ideas to give for an end of the school year gift to, let's say, senior employees, right? Like John Bender, the director of security for the North Bergen School District. If you want to give him a gift to say thank you for all your hard work, bullshit, for this past academic school year, I mean, why not? Let's be good people. Let's be good Christians. Let's start a GoFundMe, and let's make sure that we get John Bender an unlimited amount of polygrip for John Bender as the school year comes to an end. And again, you're probably wondering, where did I get this picture? Well, yes, folks, when John Bender, earning over $100,000 a year, scratching his ass as the director of security for the North Bergen School District, when he should be on, I don't know, one school campus. No, last month he was in Newark Municipal Court supporting one of his little fellow propagandists, Leonard Filipowski, which, by the way, as a reminder, Leonard Filipowski is doing municipal court again, if I'm not mistaken, this Friday. So I'm sure, obviously the school year will be over. I'm sure that John Bender will find a way to, take some time off and go cheer on his little buddy, Leonard Filipowski. But for someone like John Bender, and I got to tell you, folks, what's really interesting, and this is a guy who's made a point to go after people and their families online. See, John, again, I don't mind you coming after me. That's okay. But understand that when you want to go after people, not as many people are going to see you cooking people or attempting to cook people as when I cook people. So John Bender is a classic example of bringing a knife to a gunfight when it comes to online jabs. We're not the same, Johnny. Okay? And I got to tell you, more than 10 people last week brought it to my attention when John Bender finally changed his profile picture. Because if you remember, he had that profile picture, right, going back to, again, a photo that he took maybe 1971 or something. I don't know. When he was, I think, in his... don't quote me, because if I'm doing the math correctly, I think John Bender's around 84, 85 years old. So back, all right. So back in 1971, when that black and white picture he was using forever was taken, he was probably like mid to late 30s. But I got to tell you, when this was brought to my attention, that he changed his profile picture to a picture of me, which I thought was great because finally, at least, there'll be a good-looking picture of John Bender on his profile. And it was interesting is more than 10 people sent me a screenshot of this right here. And it was also the same question. What's wrong with John Bender? And I said, well, how much time do you have? That's a very complicated question. Where do you want me to start? Folks, this is a child. This is an 85-year-old child who has made a point to go after people who he vehemently disagrees with. That's fine. You can disagree with people. But taking jabs at people. And I'll give you one example. The mayor of Guttenberg, Wayne Zitt, who I know for a fact was very much a loyalist to Mayor Nick Sacco in North Bergen for many, many years. I'm not saying something that's not true here. A lot of Wayne's political career is due to having Nick Sacco as a mentor. No one's going to begrudge him that. But unfortunately, in the Sacco empire, Wayne Zitt committed the one unforgivable act. And that was not going along with the program. So during this past primary season, since Guttenberg is in the 33rd legislative district, Wayne Zitt decided to sit it out. Now, yes, full transparency, Wayne Zitt had hosted an event last summer at Roomba in Guttenberg, New Jersey, for then gubernatorial candidate Stephen Fulop, along with sheriff candidate Frank Scolari. Now, at the time, Tony Hector wasn't a candidate for the assembly yet, and Frank Alonso was still sleeping, so he wasn't aware he was a candidate yet either. But Wayne Zitt was a gentleman and said, hey, listen, I endorse Steve and I endorse Frank. He stuck to his word. Good for Wayne. I don't begrudge him that. But during the assembly race, he decided to sit it out. Which he's entitled to do that. He's not obligated to take a side. Last I remember, Secaucus Mayor Michael Gannelli didn't take a side in the assembly race. And Secaucus is in the 33rd legislative district. Did John Bender, did he ejaculate all over himself because, Mike Gannelli didn't endorse? No, he conveniently left Mike Gannelli alone. But he felt the need to go after Wayne Zitt. Like, John, Wayne can endorse whoever he wants. And if he's choosing not to endorse, that's his prerogative. Like, no offense, John, but no. With all due offense, who the F are you to tell anyone how to vote or who to endorse? Who are you? You're a nobody. You're a lazy bastard earning over $100,000 a year, being the director of security for the North Bergen Public Schools. And by the way, how are the North Bergen Public Schools doing lately? Do they compare to the Union City Public Schools or the Western Public Schools or the Weehawken Public Schools? No. They're shit. I wonder why. Well, it starts when you employ garbage employees like John Bender, who has a lot of free time on his hands to ostracize and vilify people online. And this is a guy we're supposed to take seriously? An 85-year-old man acting like a child? So again, folks, as we are entering the end of the 2024-2025 academic calendar for all the school districts in New Jersey, there might be some end-of-the-year parties. You might be giving some gifts to senior employees. Let's do the right thing. And you can go to CVS.com, Walgreens.com, and you can actually order a gift card or you can email a supply of Polygrip for John Bender. I'm sure his email is easy to find on the North Bergen Public School District site. I'm not going to put it out there for bulk consumption. You're a very intelligent audience, which is why you tune in every Monday night to this program. But if you're looking to do a good deed and you're looking to send a gift to a senior employee, and you want to be nice and compassionate to a senior citizen like John Bender, make sure you get them a monthly supply of Polygrip. But in all seriousness, folks, what did we learn last Tuesday night? The Sacco Empire is crumbling. Now, I wear many hats, ladies and gentlemen. I'm an award-winning broadcast journalist, academic, scholar. But you know what I'm also, what I also am? And by the way, since I completed the course back in 2023, I'm also an ordained minister. So you know what we're going to do tonight, folks? Let's have some last rites here as I wear my minister cloth here. Okay. Let's read some last rites for the Sacco Empire, because that's what we saw last Tuesday. Nick Sacco's control over Hudson County is slowly but surely dying. Now, I don't know who's going to take up the mantle. Is it Anthony Veneri? Is it Joe Muniz? Is it John Bender? Who knows who else in North Bergen? But, folks, what we learned last Tuesday night, okay, and I'm going to apply last rites to the Sacco regime, okay? I'll do it in English and Spanish because I'm fully bilingual. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. En nombre del Padre, el Hijo, y el Espíritu Santo. I'd like to, at this moment, read the last rites for the Sacco Empire. The Sacco political machine that has had a stranglehold on Hudson County for decades. It's fair to say, folks, Tuesday, June 10th on 2025, we can say goodbye to the Sacco Empire and the Sacco political machine. I hereby establish last rites to this empire. En el Padre, el Hijo, el Espíritu Santo. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. My condolences to all the fans of the Sacco Empire and the Sacco political machine. You are done. And good riddance. Folks, let's move on here. And again, as I said before, if you're looking to be compassionate and a good citizen this week, once again, CVS.com, Walgreens.com, and you can actually gift an order of polygrip. Make sure John Bender gets his supply. God knows he needs it. Folks, let's move on here. What we saw over the weekend, and certainly I talked about this at length over the weekend. What did we see on Saturday when it was Flag Day? It was also the 250th birthday of the United States Army. Who, by the way, with a simple Google search, and for anyone that knows how to read, I mean, this parade to honor the United States Army was being planned going back to last June. And remind me again who was president of the United States? Oh, that's right, Sleepy Joe Biden. And the Department of Defense was planning the 250th birthday of the United States Army, as well as honoring Flag Day. Coincidentally, it just happened to fall on President Trump's birthday. Wasn't done intentionally. Wasn't some military parade using taxpayer dollars, where as a matter of fact, a lot of private sector dollars were used to fund this parade. Okay? Seems to be okay when France and South Korea and Italy and other countries in Europe have military parades. That's okay. They're honoring their military. So did we. But these are the clowns behind me that seem to, on their social media, have this meltdown about, oh, No King's Day. Really? Let's dissect No King's Day. Especially with one of the biggest clowns in New Jersey, especially in media. Yes, folks. Max Pizarro. Folks, this useless bastard had the audacity again to publish one of his useless columns. More on that in a minute. But I had a chance to stop by Weehawken, New Jersey, as we saw marches not just only across the country, but throughout New Jersey. All the social justice clowns, woke fools, smelly cat ladies, insufferable feminists. Yes, they all congregated, folks, at different locations in New Jersey. And of course, they congregate here in Weehawken. As you can see, for some of the men and women, this is probably the most cardio they got all week, if not all month.
Democracy is under attack. Stand up. Oh, yes, folks. Real Talk is live and on the road here in Weehawken. Of course. I love all the white virtue signalers here in Weehawken. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that was really classy, right? The 8647, right? I think we all know what that means. And you would think that, I don't know, some of these residents would know better in Weehawken, but we're not exactly dealing with some very smart residents in Weehawken. Not everyone, but some. Maybe one specific family in Weehawken that I don't really care for, or some of their kids who just continue on with this sort of incessant rhetoric. But again, let's continue on with these clowns walking in the rain.
Yeah. That's why you can see all the great, white virtue signalers in Weehawken that never took a biology course or certainly never took a U.S. history course or an economics course. But here they are, virtue signaling. Ah, yes. Ah, yes. I'll tell you, gotta love the virtue signaling. Did I say how much I'm so glad it's raining today, folks? Look at these idiots over here. Gotta admit their commitment. They probably should be committed, but. I gotta love the energy here. Oof. I mean, they're screaming at the top of their lungs, folks. This is embarrassing. Look at this. Folks, it's really interesting. On the 248th anniversary of Flag Day, which is what today is, June the 14th, or the 250th anniversary of our U.S. Army, right? These are important dates to think about on June the 14th. But no, folks, all these social justice clowns and woke fools, of course, have to just, go and virtue signal about. They don't even know what they're virtue signaling about, to be honest with you. But that's what makes it so funny. Folks, that's what makes it so funny. Seeing these clowns, just walking and what exactly, if you ask them basic question about economics, they're not going to know the answer. You ask them about biology, they're not know the answer. You got some shitty parents here that, encourage mental illness, trans people. But of course, might not. Or I don't know, maybe fell asleep the day that they taught the Constitution and U.S. history. Maybe, where, sovereignty and preservation of borders are responsibility of the federal government. But, don't ask these people. They don't know anything about that stuff. They care about pronouns and their email signatures. And they want to make sure that, hey, we're coddling illegals as much as we can. And we are, what else do we see here? And no mention about, the fact that food prices have gone down drastically. You can tell with this crowd, obviously they know plenty about food. Or the fact that inflation's down.
You can tell a lot of them don't miss many meals, and clearly this is probably the most cardio they got all week. So God bless them for doing that,
Lowest since, 2021. Or, for example, I don't know, maybe the cost of crude oil is down because we're producing more domestically. So if you notice, it's Father's Day weekend and we're paying $2 something a gallon for gasoline. When was the last time you saw that? You didn't see that last 4 years. Not a word out of these people. Of course not. Yes, as they continue, unbelievable. Gotta admit, though, I'm pretty impressed. It's probably the most cardio some of these women have done all week here. And the guys, too, of course. It's actually kind of funny because if there were kings, they wouldn't allow demonstrations like this. But don't let the facts get in the way of these ridiculous, narratives here. They're still walking. Okay, they're still walking here, obviously. Let's see. I think there's some late stragglers here. Okay. They just woke up. You know, it is after 1 o'clock, you know. And they wake up late every day, but especially on the weekends.
Folks, you get the picture, right? I mean, obviously, over the weekend, obviously, we saw a lot of children. But what was interesting was, of course, you know, Max Pizarro and, you know, his usual diatribes, right? His latest column, if you can call it that, for Insider NJ. Folks, and by the way, are there more generous people in New Jersey than the Graham family? Right? That continue to employ useless, lazy bastards like Max Pizarro and Pete O'Nelia, earning over $100,000 a year. Let's start with Pete. Let me see. What's the hardest part of his day? Scratching his nuts or scratching the nuts of his dog? I mean, how hard does this guy really work? Right? In Hawthorne. Or Max Pizarro. I mean, does he ever even leave his house? Earning $100,000 a year, sitting on his ass, playing with his dick, and writing propaganda for Insider NJ. Folks, this is what the Graham family is investing money in. Kind of makes you wonder. Listen, if you have F around money like that, why don't you, like, you know, listen, send me a check. I mean, I can use a new PlayStation. Okay? But in the latest propaganda piece by Insider NJ, of course, and here's a really good one here by Max Pizarro. Braving the rain, patriotic Americans around the Garden State in unison with nationwide protesters mobilized to reject President Trump's authoritarianism and militarization of democracy. Okay. In the largest scale demonstration since Trump returned to office last November, people here peacefully protested against many forms of executive overreach, including the slashing of social services, ICE kidnappings, attacks against educational institutions, and the systemic defiance of court orders. Well, let's break that down real quick, because it seems like Max, you know, once again, and I'm not going to read the whole article, folks. I mean, I don't want to put you to sleep. You know, again, there's a reason why I get traffic on this show, because I don't put you to sleep, unlike this guy with his columns. Right? Let's go one at a time. Oh, the slashing of social services. I don't know what, Medicaid? So instead of the federal government sending more Medicaid dollars back to New Jersey, which, by the way, again, Max has no problem with Medicaid dollars being taken into a fund, which again are appropriated so illegals can get health care. So yes, it's true, illegals don't get Medicaid directly from the federal government or from New Jersey, but it's put into a fund where they can get access to health care. Do you like your taxpayer dollars going to that? For those of us that work for a living, unlike Max, like, I care about where my tax dollars go to. Let's see. Oh, ICE kidnappings. What? Enforcing federal law? The preservation of sovereignty, enforcing borders. Folks, again, and I know Max is like 74 years old. He took U.S. history a long time ago, but that's one of the responsibilities of the federal government. When Max took U.S. history, that's discussed in the Constitution. I know for Max, that's a long time ago. Max would rather play dress up than actually pick up a copy of the Constitution and be reminded about what the responsibilities are of the federal government. Attacks against educational institutions. Oh, gee, I don't know. Because rampant anti-Semitism is running wild on our college campuses. I'm the only journalist that actually is standing up for Jewish people. Are you, Max? Oh, that's right. That would require you leaving your house and go to college campuses like I have. Like when I've gone to Columbia University on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and seeing full-blown anti-Semitism out in the open. And the way that Jewish friends of mine and friends of mine that are also faculty members are being harassed on college campuses. But now the Trump administration wants to hold these institutions accountable, and somehow you think that that's an infringement on academic. Folks, this is the level of stupidity that we have come to rely on when it comes to Max Pizarro and his bullshit columns for a bullshit news site, because that's what Insider is. Or what else here? Or the systemic defiance of court orders. Gee, I don't know, because when the Justice Department and the Department of Immigration and Customs Enforcement is trying to get rid of criminals and illegals, judges are making it more difficult. Funny how they weren't doing that during the Obama administration, when Barack Obama was deporting more illegals than any other president in this quarter century, or Presidents Clinton and Bush. Somehow judges didn't have a problem with them, but they have a problem now. Folks, this is the type of ridiculous narratives we can expect from Max Pizarro on columns like this. Okay, so it's funny about no case. Let me educate you, Maxie. When the 46th president was denying servicemen and women employment or a continuation of their service because they didn't want to comply with the vaccine mandate. Did you bitch and moan about it? When people were losing their jobs because of a vaccine mandate, did you bitch and moan about it? When COVID lockdowns continued longer than they should have been here in New Jersey, contributing to learning loss for our children in our public schools, hurting small businesses, hurting the general health of people. Did you bitch and moan about it, Max? Of course not. That will require, wait for it, that will require Max to have two things. One's a 4-syllable word and the other one's a 3-syllable word. The 3-syllable word is character. The 4-syllable word is integrity. We all know Max doesn't have any. Because if you were really against kings, you were really against authoritarianism, that was authoritarian, Max. The way that we were subjected to the draconian COVID mandates. Okay? When elderly people were forced to die by themselves in hospitals when they didn't have to. Did you bitch and moan about that, Max? Of course not. That's why no one takes you effing seriously. Because you're a joke. Your columns are a joke. More importantly, your columns are bullshit. Because you're bullshit. Someone has to call you out. Your employers aren't. They're happy to fund that bullshit enterprise, otherwise known as insider engine. So when you see grown men and women getting cardio for the first time in months, walking and complaining about, oh my God, authoritarianism, what exactly are you bitching and moaning about? Again, the cost of groceries are down. God knows we saw plenty of people this weekend that know all about groceries and food. When the cost of crude oil is down. When the market is still strong. I watch it every day. When inflation is as low as it's ever been in 4 years. What exactly are you complaining about, Max? But again, folks, this is what makes the establishment media unlikable. And this is why people have lost faith in the establishment media. Because they're lying to you. When we think about liars in the establishment media, we think about useless clowns like Max Pizarro. He's good to play dress up. But when it comes to actually doing his job and actually engaging in real journalism, we don't see that from Max Pizarro. And the reality is, we never will. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, thank you for watching this week's show here. Once again, I want to thank Steve Zielinski, the Green Party candidate for governor here in 2025. Once again, folks, we get you the exclusives that nobody else does. Again, don't forget to like us on Facebook, of course, follow us on Instagram and X. And don't forget, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Like, comment, and share, and subscribe. And also, don't forget to download us on Spotify or SoundCloud, and you'll be automatically notified of all the great content brought to you by Jersey First TV. Folks, I can't say enough what a privilege it is to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, folks. It's the Jersey First Television Network. Brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, hosted by my outstanding tag team partner, the great Elizabeth Nader. And brand new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe premiere every Monday night. Check your local listings, of course, for start times. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Real Talk right here on the Jersey First Television Network. I am the generational talent in Garden State Media, and certainly, folks, I'm the hero you need right now, because as the establishment media here in New Jersey continues to lie to you, guess who won't? Fernando Uribe. That's right, folks. Again, we appreciate you tuning in here. Please party responsibly. Enjoy the rest of the week. Again, be safe from the rain out there. And certainly, folks, we'll see you next Monday night live here on the Jersey First Television Network. Thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.